All right, so welcome everyone. It's Tuesday, so that means it's time for another Liberal Gun Club social distance learning session. And tonight we're extending our Veterans Experience panel from last week. So if you were here last week, you got to see a sometimes R-rated conversation between a whole bunch of vets from all sorts of different branches of service. And our moderator last week, Lonny, decided it was a good idea to continue that adventure into this week. So this week we have a couple more veterans who you should be able to see on the screen now. I'm going to let Lonny do the introductions in a second. We are streaming live on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on the Facebook page, and for members in the Facebook Lounge. If you have questions, drop them, and you're on the Zoom chat, drop them into the Zoom chat. One of our moderators will grab them and put them in the list to ask. If you have questions on any of those other channels, we'll try to get to them as we can. There's only a handful of us, so we're going to be rotating through the various channels to look for those questions. So if we don't answer your question right away, we'll get to it eventually. We promise. So be patient. Without further ado, though, I'm going to turn it over to Lonny to make the introductions to our panelists this evening. And then you're not going to hear from me until the end of the show.
And good evening, and thank you all for joining us. Tonight we have two women veterans, both Marine prior service veterans, Amy Dillon and Jennifer Stuckey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep.
Jennifer Stuckey. And that being said, I'm going to give them a chance to talk a little bit about themselves and a little background on their service, and then we'll get into the rest of the panel discussion. It's all yours, ladies.
Who wants to start?
Jennifer, you can go first.
I guess I'm the older. I was in the Marine Corps from 92 to 97. I joined after college. I kind of did it backwards. I know most people go in the service first and then go to college, but I did it backwards for a whole variety of reasons, none of which I'm going to get into right now. I currently live in Florida, and I went to high school actually with Lara, who got me interested in this group, and I actually went to the chapter meeting in Florida, the annual meeting in Florida, like 2 years, well, I guess it was 2 years ago. So that's how I became a member of this group. I've been a member ever since. And, you know, I love to shoot guns. I like things that go pow. So I'll get it over to Amy now.
All right. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Amy Dillon, and I was active duty in the Marine Corps from 1998 to 2011. I enlisted right after high school. I was in boot camp, I think 3 months after I graduated. And, you know, I served almost 13 years in. As far as firearms is going, you know, pretty much after I got out, I started a career as a firearms instructor and in the firearms industry. I guess one of the things I want to mention is prior to me, one of the things I did when I was active duty was I was a combat marksmanship trainer, and I was also a drill instructor. And after that, after getting out, I thought that I might go into law enforcement, and that was my initial plan. I ended up going to college for criminal justice. I didn't graduate with a criminal justice degree. I just started and decided to work at a local gun store that was hiring in the transition. And that kind of snowballed into what I do now in the industry. So the law enforcement opportunity actually came. I was actually presented with an offer, and I turned it down because by the time I got everything going with that, I found myself just in love with everything I was doing with the firearms industry at the time. So I was working for a large firearms manufacturing company in South Carolina, and I was the director of training and range operations. And that kind of catapulted me into shooting. I started shooting 3-gun competitively, and started writing opinion editorials for different multimedia platforms, different magazines, things like that. And I eventually just started my own business and did firearms training. I'm also a freelance writer, and I do several things in the industry now. So firearms are pretty much the focus of my professional life and personal. So it's a long-winded story.
Thank you both. I'm going to start this off with a question I had previously asked Amy and Jennifer before we went live, and that is a little bit of your take on women's role in combat in the current situation, in the current past probably 20 years now, and what your take is on it, and a little bit about what it's like for you as women to serve in a potentially combat role, and also how has coming home from that experience been for you guys?
Who should go first?
You could take it.
Okay, I have so much to say, and I should have known that question was going to come up. I knew it would. I get asked that a lot, actually. There's so much to unpack when it comes to talking about women in combat. And one thing that I do want to start off saying is the conversation that we're having about women in combat. The thing that bothers me the most is the people that are contributing, it seems, to this conversation are people that have men that have never served. But personally, I will say I've never served in a combat role when I was active duty. I certainly trained Marines that were under my, under my care, I guess, at the time, for that. But we're all trained. I mean, peacetime, wartime, all Marines, especially in the Marine Corps, it's ingrained in us that this is what we're training for. But I will say that my friends, that some of them are still on active duty, even before the conversation about women being in combat, have been in combat since this war, since 2001 or 2000. God, has it been that long? 2001. So I have friends of mine that were hurt in combat. They're women veterans, women Marines that are Purple Heart recipients. They're recipients of the Combat Action Ribbon, meaning they engaged in being fired at and firing back. And I have, unfortunately, I know some of my friends that have passed away, that are no longer here because they were casualties. So it's a very emotional topic for me to talk about women in combat, because women, as long as I've served, have been in combat. We've been there. We're just now talking about it. Are there differences? Absolutely. Are there things that we can delve into as far as, these details about the difference, physical differences between men and women, the standards of training, the standards of what we expect? Absolutely. There's differences, and I respect that. But it's the same with anything else, and I have a hard time talking about this. And Jennifer, I'm going to throw it to you because I can talk forever about this, but women have been in combat. Women have been in combat.
Yeah. I mean, just to go on what you're saying, women have been in combat for a while. And as Marines, I think that's what we're trained for. That's the first thing you learn in boot camp, how to, this is your gun, this is your rifle, this is your parody Full Metal Jacket. This is your rifle, this is your gun. You take it everywhere. It is part of you in boot camp. And I get it. I get in a big loss and not sure what to say because
it's such a vast topic, especially when you ask. I mean, even in our circle of women veterans, we talk about this, and there's a difference of opinions one way or another. I mean, it's such a controversial, and there's so much there. Jennifer, do you?
I was gonna say yes. It's there's many different views as in the veteran world as there are in the regular world. It shouldn't be that hard. If women, I don't even know what to say. I mean, women can be in combat. That's my feeling, and I don't know exactly what your feeling is, Amy, but I could shoot a gun. I could shoot an M16. You know, one shot, one kill. That's what it is.
Right.
It's what
Well,
it is.
it's just like, I used to tell my recruits when I was training them, it doesn't matter what your job is. The military, it's a machine, and just like any other machine, we need every bolt, every tiny little screw, everything to make it work. And it's the same thing in combat. I mean, there's different roles even in combat. There's so it's when you say, combat, it gets down to, well, what exactly is the question? Because
I mean, we're not
everyone
warfare. We're all not
right.
I worked air wing, but I could still be in combat. Air base still in combat.
Yes. Well, do you remember there was actually I was air wing too. I was an F-18 analyst. And so I was making on the computer, the first 6 years I was active duty. But there was, I don't know if you remember hearing about this. I think it was back in 2004, maybe it was when I was active duty. There was in Al Asad Air Base, they got attacked. And it was their what unit was that? It was Air Wing Marines had to fight. They were picking up their M16s and fighting. And I think the CO of that unit I'm talking about, he was killed. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, it's just as a Marine, you have to be prepared to fight anytime, anywhere.
This is such a we have because we have two women Marines on the panel tonight. It's just very, very biased on Marines.
So for me, listening to you guys talk about this, it just kind of brought back to me the song, the old song, "Anything You Can Do." Anything you can do, I can do better. No, you can't. Yes, I can. So I hope that in 2020, the people that are debating whether women can or should be in combat are getting their behinds handed to them in the debate, because I think this is, I hope, and that this is an old debate that we shouldn't really be having anymore, right?
but as Amy said, I think the majority of the people debating it have never even served.
Right.
And I think that's what pisses me off the most.
Right. Sorry, go ahead, Lonny.
So to kind of, because I didn't mean to break the panel so quickly. So the main question here, in my mind, isn't whether or not women should be in combat. But the question is how has that affected you in terms of your coming home, in terms of how people approach you, or how you would like to be approached as women who, whether you did or didn't, could potentially have served in an actual force-on-force combat operation.
So when you say coming home, essentially, can I relate that to transitioning from being a service member to being a regular civilian?
Yeah, that's actually what I mean.
Okay.
I use that's a little bit from my era of Vietnam.
Yeah.
We tend
right.
to think of it as coming home, but yeah.
Right.
What has it been like you're transitioning from military service to civilian life, and how has your role in the military affected that transition?
For me, I'll say this. I've had some very dark times. It's hard. Just straight up, it's hard. It's hard getting from that mindset to being a certain way and trying to figure out, okay, who actually am I? And I get a lot of questions from just people that I know that have recently gotten out, some of my friends, like asking me for advice. And it's hard to explain. It's kind of hard to explain because, I mean, just personally, my example, I enlisted right out of high school. And for 12 and a half years, my identity was who I was in uniform. And that's who I was. I protected, I call it, I protected the Marine Corps. I defended it. Every fabric of my being was around this. And, I say sometimes people in the military, and I had this revelation the last few years I was in, because I compared it to some of my friends that I still kept in touch with in high school. They were in college and moving on with their careers. And here I was, I'm going on my next deployment and figuring out, stuff, thinking about the decisions I'm making really can impact its life or death decisions that I'm making. And I just felt really that I had tunnel vision as far as, this was my mission. This is what I'm doing. This is who I am. I'm putting on this uniform. For me, it was, I'm Sergeant so-and-so, I'm Staff Sergeant so-and-so. This is my identity. And when I got out, I mean, the easiest way I can explain it is I remember having this feeling the next day that right after my EAS, I felt like an orphan. I felt alone. Because I didn't go back to my parents' house. I started living independently, and I just felt truly alone. And it was hard. I went from, I was a staff sergeant at E6 with 12 years in, and I was coming off a special duty assignment. And I went from making the money I was making, in that regard, to I was now working for, I think, like $10 an hour, and relying on trying to set up my stuff to go to college. And I just felt like a failure. Like, what am I doing? Why, I thought I was, going to be doing something else. It was hard. And finding that support at the time, I was also going through a divorce. So it was just it was really dark, really dark. And even now, like, I still struggle with, like relationships, interpersonal relationships. As a woman, finding commonalities with other women, I wanted to have those female friendships, but I found that I just couldn't relate. I missed that camaraderie, being around like-minded women that had the same mentality and mindset and strength that I was accustomed to. I didn't necessarily find that. I'm not saying that all, regular civilians are like a certain way, but I just didn't find it in the, I guess what am I trying to say here? I didn't find it in the numbers that I was used to being around everyone that was active duty. And that's why I kind of, try to strengthen the friendships I had with my other, women veterans. And also, that's honestly, I kind of see that in the firearms community, that women that are around guns, there's something, a lot of like law enforcement, military, and just something about the mindset of a firearms owner is the same. And I found that camaraderie in the firearms community.
Yeah, I just want to say to you, I can reiterate a lot of what you said. When I got out in 97, I was only in 5 years and not 11 or 12 or whatever. I was at a loss. You're going for something that's so structured. You know what you're doing every day. This is what I have to do this day. This is what I have to do this day. I have to work out. I have to press my uniform. I have to, go to work. I have to do this and do that. And all of a sudden, there's nothing. There's nobody telling you, do this. There's no common goal, I guess. It's just you. Whereas in the military, I mean, like, even if you didn't like somebody, they were all brothers and sisters. I'm guessing it's like that in all the military, not just the Marine Corps. But there's always a common goal. You're always doing something for someone, or you're, and you get out, and it's like, now what? I mean, what do I do? And it took me, quite a while to figure out exactly who I was. And I think in some ways I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, yeah, I'm not sure I'm entirely there yet. I guess I'm still learning.
Oh, Jennifer, I have a question for you. This is related. Do you sometimes, like, do you sometimes find that like it's almost like when you walk into like the VA or something, people don't think automatically that you're the veteran?
Right. As like in Veterans Day, I went to go out with my husband, free Veterans Day, free meal for veterans. And they immediately looked at my husband. So when did you serve? I'm like, not him. I get the free meal. I get the free meal he has to pay. But yes, I said he never served. But it's a different mindset in the military than it is in the civilian world. And it's hard to change from one to another. I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to explain.